Good question, Pete.
July 20th.
Because I had this written down in my book.
Okay, these things are working.
So,
Very good question. I'll be here. How about you guys?
as of now, I have no emergency, but that could change. But as far as, I guess, we could wait a few minutes just to give Greg a chance to see if he's gonna make it and see if he has any concerns.
You know, that, because I think Greg does usually a pretty good job of emailing or texting if he's not coming,
Yeah.
which I
That's what I'm
think
saying, we
is
just
a
wanna
really
give him a
good
couple of
practice.
minutes anyways.
Yeah.
Especially when Steve isn't coming at a while, so we've got till 8 o'clock for your first appointment.
So, we'll do the manifest right now. Jane has 14 and a half hours.
Move to approve the June 28th manifest.
Second,
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 You are approved, Jane.
Gee, thank you. Whopping 14 hours.
Could we go through these pictures and maybe get an update from Sylvia?
Yep. Or do you
Do you
wanna
wanna
go over
wait
the
till they
minutes?
come?
Or do you wanna wait till they come?
You probably should
I'd
wait.
rather, I
You'd
mean,
like to go over it before they get here?
I think it would be good to just, based on what I heard a little bit of, I think it would be good for us to have a discussion before they arrive.
Okay. Well, why don't
Just
we,
so we can,
let's plow through the
proceed
minutes,
smoothly.
because we have an hour. And let's get the minutes out of the way, and then we will proceed to the scenic road project.
okay.
Yeah, and Greg wasn't here last week anyway, 2 weeks ago, so.
Okay, anybody have anything on the minutes?
I have no corrections or additions to the minutes.
Okay,
And Fred was not here. How about you, Pete?
I'm still having a hard time reading, but I think everything looks all right to me.
We were out of here at 8 o'clock.
Actually, one thing.
What's that?
We basically, you weren't here, Fred, but
Right.
John Harrington did give me a call about the impact fees,
Oh, yeah.
and we basically didn't have anything, because he had listed out the projects that he wanted to use the impact fees on, and they were all pretty much, road work, and then one thing for the transfer station.
Yep.
And we made an assumption that you were familiar with what they were wanting to do.
Yeah, the only thing I obviously cautioned him on was that it can't be used for maintenance. And he was supposed to be trying to put together some information on traffic counts to show the increase and
Okay.
further justification.
But basically, it wasn't, I don't think it was up for us to vote yay or nay on it, right?
Right,
So,
Just an FYI.
it was just more of an issue of
Yeah.
if we had any concerns.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was told.
That was basically the way I proceeded with it.
Yeah,
Kate?
that's right.
On page 3,
Okay?
this topic is Brown's Mill.
Yep.
Just at the bottom of page 2. I think it would be useful to say in there that the reason that Jane spoke with Betsy McNaughton, by the way, nice spelling of her name, Jane, that's the way she does it, so good work, with the extra E. That was accurate, that's good.
Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't-
Attorney for BMI, Pat Panciocco, I think what we talked about, and I think would be helpful to have for the record, is that, that the Fish and Game easement is not recorded, or not mentioned on the 3 pages that were recorded, which was what Fish and Game's concern was. I'll wait till you're finished writing to say more.
Okay.
You got that? That makes sense?
Okay.
So, Fred, you weren't here, but basically what was happening is that Betsy McNaughton, who's worked for a long time, dealing with easements and title abstracts and searching, is she was concerned that if only 3 pages are recorded and there's no reference on the plan to the fishing game easement, which goes across the conservation easement,
Yeah,
when people are doing searches, they won't find it.
right.
And I agreed with her, I thought that was
Yeah,
right,
valid
so
point.
I don't know how they resolved it.
I don't know, I have not spoken to anybody from, and as I told you, the attorney just told me, you don't have to do anything, I'm handling this, and we are not recording it. 8 more pages of.
Right, so we don't know, I got an email.
don't know.
I got an email from Betsy 2 days ago saying that that very day, she had worked things out with Pat, and. that-
Okay,
So, but I don't know the details, and I was
I don't
hoping
know.
somebody here would.
I,
I guess one other thing would be is, Fred, we extended Dave Pelletier's extension till August 23rd, because we knew that you wanted him to come in and talk to us
Mm-hmm,
for the reason for another extension.
yeah,
And we decided to push it off a couple of months because you weren't here,
okay.
so that. You're gonna be here August 23rd?
As far as I know,
Other than that, I'm all set.
we don't have
I,
any,
I actually had some suggested revisions under other business on
Okay.
page 3.
on page what? Page
3.
Page 3, okay. Oh,
Kate Hartnett advised that the Conservation Commission has sent comments to DES regarding a permit approval for, and I would insert site work.
site work, okay.
It was actually borings.
Well, site work
Okay.
on the on the Eversource substation site.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to add site twice, right?
Just to clarify what we're talking about here.
And I would change the word for, regarding a permit approval, I'd say a permit application,
Oh,
because I hadn't gotten the approval yet.
okay.
And then on page 2, I didn't add this, but I will just throw it up to the group to discuss. At the top of the page, this is discussing the Eversource Kate Road, Scenic Road, tree trimming. I think at the end, I did mention to Eversource that the Scenic Road signs would be going up in Deerfield over the next short bit of time.
So you want that added?
If it's all right with people, I think it's a good thing to put in there.
Are they something that people will
It's okay
steal?
with me.
Hopefully not. They're very good looking.
Not as nice as the Isle of Shoals sign that was in my apartment one morning.
Pete, that sounds like a story for later, after the machine's off.
Yeah, I know. I just, like, made me think of the signs, and people like a sign, they take it. So. Are we all set?
Just on the minutes, yeah, happy.
All those in favor, or somebody make a motion?
Yeah, we need
I move to accept the minutes of Flag Day, June 14th, as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
abstain,
isn't this working? Let's try this one.
Okay. So, we are now on the Gulf Road.
Can we deal with the sign ordinance?
Yep. If you want to, I'm good for that. Kate, you had some issues with the signs.
Well, it's not that. I, for some reason, remembered that our sign ordinance did not allow animated flashing intermittent illumination signs. And I think what we have in front of George B. White is one of those. that scrolling Times Square banner headline that's out there, the LED thing. And so I think Jane very kindly pulled out the amended sign ordinance, but even our previous sign ordinance in both of those, regardless of the changes, which is currently 319.1D, says signs may not be animated, flashing, or intermittent illumination. So, it's not that I'm uber smart, it's that I had the good luck to walk in with Sylvia Van Alek, who suggested that it would actually be most appropriate, perhaps, if the planning board agrees with this interpretation, which I'm just offering, I'm not really, just want to say, it appears to me that there's a contradiction. And if other people agree, I think the easy solution that Sylvia suggested, not I, was just to have the town go to the ZBA and ask for a variance on it. So,
What's the book say?
I had talked to Rick.
Yeah, did he tell you what his
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was
He
going
said that
to amend it.
the town is exempt
Sure,
from
I know.
the zoning ordinance.
it absolutely is.
It's absolutely true.
It is absolutely true.
Unless the ordinance says that the town isn't exempt, which
Absolutely
I
right.
don't think our ordinance says that.
It would be a matter of courtesy.
Yeah.
It's not even that it would be more, like, the zoning board wouldn't even, I mean, it's like, I'm not talking well, but.
Can I make, I think that maybe we're just kind of delving into minutia on this point, because it's not, that sign is for the needs of the many, not the few. It's for the town, it's not for an individual, the sign itself. I understand what this says, but if we get an RSA or it says that we're exempt, the town's exempt, I don't think that we need to create one more thing for somebody to do.
Sylvia?
And I understand, you're right, if we go to the zoning board and they do it, and
Well, you try to be a good example.
I
You
understand
know,
that.
If it was anybody else, for example, if our friend, the pizza place, wanted that sign, they would have had to gone before the ZBA
Right.
to get that sign. Now, we get that, I think that even came about, that's the sign that, correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, that's from hazard mitigation some time ago, and
Right.
you folks finally got that underway.
Right.
And, I mean, that's great. It's informative. It tells people what's going on. It's just, it's awkward if you're asking the community to do one thing and you do another. And so even if it is under the heading of hazard mitigation or information only, and it's not advertising a business, it's an illuminated sign, and it's more of a courtesy than anything, and showing a good example.
And I think, well, I guess it probably should end up going to the Board of Selectmen.
okay.
But with that caveat that the planning board realizes that the town is exempt, but it would set a good example if the town went to the ZBA to get a formal.
Well, I guess we should transfer it back to the select board since they're in charge of the George B. White building.
Yeah, yeah.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
We're sending it back to the
Back to
selectmen.
selectmen, okay.
You know, just as an aside, we don't have to delve into this at great length, but it always puzzled me that Congress is exempt from its laws. It seems like something that ensures bad laws. And we don't have to do this, but I think it's a courtesy and it's the right thing to do to at least explore it. I also think it's a great thing. I think it's very useful. But I just think it's good to have kind of the respect for the process, because if we don't have it, who would?
Mhm.
There, I feel better. Okay, thanks.
I wonder if, since we're still, and we're chatting about zoning, if it would be an okay time to talk about item number 2 under new business.
Oh.
Amendments to zoning ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be all right, Pete, or?
Yeah, I mean, how much
Sylvia,
time do you
let-
need on this?
Let
Kate?
me,
How much time do you think you're gonna need on this?
I don't know, Sylvia was the one who had the conversation with the
Okay.
folks, so I just want to make a note that that's the earliest I've ever heard that proposal to
This
talk
is
about
true.
amendments. So I just want to make a note.
Well, I'm
I
not
think
talking
it's-
about amendments. I want to talk about the process, actually.
Oh, because that says, well, okay, hit it.
Yeah.
And I asked Jane to put this on here. It was real successful, my experience in Exeter, on zoning amendments, to get together a subcommittee where we had representatives from the different boards, because we know, even though this group deals with amendments from zoning ordinance, we know the ZBA has to actually enforce them, and, well, not enforce, but deal with them.
Right.
And so what I would do was, I would have representative from Conservation Commission, Planning, Zoning, Historic District, you know, the full gambit, and of course, planning staff and building. And we would discuss what's come up in the last year where the zoning ordinance wasn't clear. There was gray, or it's a hiccup, or something. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's 5 things, and we'd work through it, and then that subcommittee would report to the planning board come September, October, so that it's not like my idea, or, you know, it came from the people who actually have to use it or are finding issues. And it just was really helpful, so I just wanted to see if the board would be game for that, and if so, then I would, with the help of Jane and whoever, I would get out an email to the different chairs of those boards and invite them to a subcommittee meeting,
Yeah, I think that's
where
a
we
good
talked
idea.
about it, and making sure it made sense for everyone's time and it was effective and efficient as possible.
So it ended up being Rick, somebody from the ZBA, the Heritage Commission?
Yeah, could be.
And from this board, I guess.
And
Can
then
you think
somebody
of
from the
anybody else?
conservation.
Conservation Commission.
Conservation
Conservation, yeah.
Commission, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you mention be it select board?
Select board would not be involved,
right.
really. The select board doesn't have to deal with the zoning
No,
ordinance.
they don't.
Okay.
We deal
Would
with
that
other
be-
things, I'd
Yeah.
gladly swap for zoning stuff, but,
Would it be just for kind of an internal tweaking and suggestions to improve zoning is the idea?
Well,
or-
whoever, the representatives of each of the, for each of those boards, would, first they would talk to their boards about, oh, hey, wow, we're gonna do this is new this year, we're being invited to chat about issues, so they would, first, those representatives would talk to their board, hey, what's come up this year? What's been an issue in zoning? So if I'm representing this board or someone else is representing this board, I'd expect some conversation one evening on what are the issues, let's tackle, it could be definitions, it could be, I don't know, fill in the blank. It could be section blah, 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 sign, you know,
yeah.
the Smith Road. It could be anything, and we bring that list to the committee discusses the various things and comes up with solutions, what do you think is best? And then we present it back,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the idea.
I think it's a very good idea, Sylvia. I think most of the zoning issues where there might be issues of misunderstanding or confusion would be with the code enforcement officer first. And in that regard, last year, before we presented our zoning amendments, I did check with Rick about what issues he's had in the past
Yeah,
that could be better clarified. And I really didn't get a response to that. So I assumed that he really doesn't have any major issues. But I think the Smith Road ordinance probably is one that might
Yeah.
need better clarification.
yeah, in my reading it, I would say that there was also some sections of open space that left some questions. I remember
Mhm.
we had that discussion once, and because I come every Tuesday morning and chat with Rick and Jane, and we make appointments. For example, this Tuesday, we had a resident who was considering a small subdivision, and so we chatted, and we looked at the Smith Road, and you just read it out loud, and you just start shaking your head, so, no, sorry, no offense, but, you know. Anyway,
But that wasn't something that this board put forward, it was by petition, and
it's,
we tried to kill it once, and,
it sounds, well, no, not that it exists. I have no problem that it exists.
Mhm.
It's just the wording. It's like certain things.
Confusing.
Yeah.
It is
When you have gray in regulations for interpretation, things get a little funky.
Mhm,
We
right.
try to be as clear as possible, right? So there's always a little room for interpretation, but
Mhm.
you don't want buckets of it. So, anyway.
That's a really appropriate phrasing. Buckets.
Careful. Careful with that one, I know. I should have never said that. Anyway, so, just a processing, and if you gave your blessing, I would ask, who here, if you want me to be your representative, I'm happy to do so. If it involves Rick, which I want it to, I'm gonna guess that the meetings ideally would happen Tuesday morning when I'm here.
I think the issue would end up being, well, getting Josh Freed, who's the chair of the ZBA,
Yeah.
whether be able to get him here
Yeah,
on
if
Tuesday
it
morning.
wouldn't have to necessarily be the chair, just a representative, so
What time Tuesday mornings?
I'm here at 8
And how long does that last usually?
to 9. I have to be very frugal with my time, as you know, so I give myself 1 hour. Next week, I will also include the staff meeting here at the Happy Holiday Inn. Evidently, we have a town office staff meeting, so
Oh,
I'm going to go to that for the first time,
Mhm.
because I think it's important for people to have a face with a name
Yeah.
and know that there is an entity here.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
no, I think it's a good idea.
Call it
Alright.
consensus.
So Dave's happy. Everybody's, Pete, you're good with this idea?
Yeah, actually, I was
So we
just,
just call it,
I'm sitting here looking at the calendar, thinking about, well, maybe we should expedite the zoning ordinance as opposed to us trying to get them all done in December 27th
Oh,
and
yes,
January
right.
4th and.
I agree.
So that's the tag on is setting up a schedule so that,
yeah.
I'm happy to do all that,
And
and,
maybe we should start hitting them in October
Yeah.
well, I would
or
like
sooner.
to,
I mean, but that would, at least if we did it in October, we'd have, 3 months,
Right.
usually as opposed to 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
well, what I found is with these committees, it takes longer, but you get a better product. So I would actually try to get a meeting, the first meeting in September, but have conversations about this meeting with people starting now,
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
so that.
yeah,
it's
because
a-
if you have your meetings in September, that gets stuff in ready for October.
right.
Or even if you were able to get them in August, which is kind of tight probably, but.
Yeah, so whenever I can find, herding cats is always tricky, so we'll figure it out, but there are incentives.
there's always cat food.
There's always food.
Or mice.
That's what I mean, cat
They
food.
really like that.
Cat food.
All right, I will start on that.
Okay. Kate, take it away.
Well, no, I'm gonna pass this over. I haven't even looked at this, but I
Okay.
think if we do a little homework, maybe our meeting at 8 could go more smoothly, because I think that Sylvia has met with the volunteers, and maybe, I don't know, are you familiar with these photos, Sylvia?
Yeah, I've seen those. We don't want to tackle capital improvement program first?
CIP?
Yeah,
Well, why don't we get this
that one done?
kind of, because they're coming in, so
All right,
we talk
so-
about it a little bit, we'll know where we're going, and then we can go back to CIP.
I met with Ann and John Duffy,
And
second,
Schultz.
Ann Schultz and John Duffy, second week in May. Jane and Rick were there, and Ann brought in, I think they were 11 by 17s of the plan. It was right after they had gotten their approval at the Board of Selectmen. So we looked at the plans, we looked at the trees, and I think we started really diving into the design. And I noticed that the design called for really removal of stone walls. And so asked if they had been in touch with property owners, and no, not yet. And I don't know if they had really thought about that the design would affect the stone walls. So we just talked a little bit about drainage. I think they didn't want to get that deep into the design, but really wanted to focus on the trees, and that was it. So I think Anne basically left thinking she would be talking to the road agent about the extent of the design and considering redesigning so that stone walls wouldn't be disturbed and the property owner wouldn't have to be contacted, and a special temporary easement wouldn't be needed, or that they would go with the existing design. It would help with the steepness of the road, and, but they would have to talk with the property owner and get a temporary easement.
Generally, stone walls form a boundary on property in New Hampshire.
It was going.
Surveyors think of this as one of the saving graces of working in New Hampshire.
Yeah,
And if there are any realignment of those property boundaries by moving stone walls, it's not a temporary easement. It's a permanent easement, or it's a land taking.
yeah, it's awkward.
Well, it's not awkward, it's a
Yeah.
legal issue.
Yeah, well, I wondered if the town was going to have a professional engineer review the plans, because it is a town road. And I think I don't know, I talked to Fred the other day about a professional
We have
engineer
Keith look at it?
reviewing the design, but the design isn't being reviewed by this group. The trees are the removal of trees, and so I started feeling I was asking too many questions.
Well, the thing is, I'm sitting here looking at the pictures now where the rock walls are and where the trees are. And in order to get infiltration in, you have to dig the stumps out.
Right.
And the stumps are integral and part of the walls. So there's no way that they will not be damaging the walls.
We got a copy of the, one page of the plans. I didn't see the profile.
I saw the plans.
Did
Was
you?
this
Okay.
May, Sylvia?
This was second week in May.
Is that the one that we got email?
I don't know, but I think there's a chance
I
they
got it
may
from-
have redesigned it,
We got it from the.
because the concept, I'm
I
sorry.
saw an email.
Board of
I
Selectmen.
wouldn't doubt it's been redesigned, because it really went beyond the stone wall.
Because the thing is, at the Conservation Commission meeting last Monday, Phil Bilodeau was here, who was an engineer, and he took a look at the plans, and it looked to him like a lot of the detention was happening under the road.
Under the road. Well, I did ask a lot about drainage, and it hadn't really, it wasn't on the plan, there was no utility information really on the plan. I pointed that out, and
But
Well-
also, one of the follow-up point is, isn't the scenic road ordinance about both trees and stone walls?
I'm sure.
I
You've
would
gotta
think
have
so.
something about the stone walls in it
Yes.
too.
I would think so.
So.
I'm sitting here
we-
looking at
I mean,
this.
I
There
don't
might be
have the
notice for
RSA, but-
trees, but you can't knock stone walls down neither if,
No.
unless you
Well,
go through the
actually,
scenic
with
road
a
thing.
large
Sorry,
excavator, they move right out pretty easily. But, it- even if they take the trees out, they're not gonna be, let's say they said they were gonna leave the walls but take the trees. They still can't do what they wanna do, because as we're looking at these pictures, the sides of the road funnel the water down the road.
Yeah.
So, are they planning on doing impervious pavement to let the water go into the road? I don't think so, because they don't have the money for that.
No.
Well, I'm
Um,
hoping they redesigned it, but do you know the date of these pictures or where they came from?
Well, it's early spring probably.
Yeah, it's before the leaves came out, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
But was this at your discussion?
That was so minor compared to
Yeah,
the amount of
When did we first get this? Last meeting, right?
well, remember they came in?
Yes, they
and
came in and that was what?
We hadn't had time, I just received the
14th.
information on
You had
Monday.
noticed, yeah, so,
So it hadn't been noticed, and that's why they left. Remember, they came in early,
right.
and they wanted
So-
to stay and talk about it, but there was not much point.
Okay, yeah,
What I'm
June 12th.
hoping, what I'm hoping is that, based on Phil's comment from Conservation Commission, and this is a helpful discussion because it's clarifying that, it's not just trees, it's also stone walls, and that Dave's point, I think, is a very important one, that, I mean, he's more articulate, just basically saying that the stone walls are part of the bounds. And so if you knock them down, it's a legal issue because you're changing the status of the road.
Well, the
Does
right-of-way, the plan shows the right-of-way as being in back of the wall.
Right.
Oh, it does?
Yeah,
Is this the plan that you saw, Fred? Something like
Yes.
that?
that's it.
How was that defined?
What's the date, Pete?
Well, I got this
Was it a
email
boundary
on the
survey?
12th of June. The date on the plan, this doesn't give any, it says 5/30/2017, but this just says layout and grading and drainage plan, but it doesn't say who the engineer was.
It's two guys, two people who work for DOT.
Yeah,
They put
Ann
the plan
Schultz
together.
Oh,
and
okay,
and
okay.
Tim,
Tim Mallett.
Yeah,
and and this is pro bono
Okay.
work.
yeah.
Well, if I look at the way they've got this, it looks like on one side they intend to leave the wall alone, but they have new grade lines tying into the rock wall on the left side of the road as you come in,
Yeah,
which is pretty tough to do.
and they're showing the edge of the right-of-way as being in back of the wall on that.
Well, on the left side as you come in,
Right,
there's culvert in the road here too. They show the right-of-way right on top of the rock wall.
mm-hmm,
Okay? Now, on the south side of the road, I
Yeah.
don't see,
that's where the cut is going to be into the embankment.
I don't see the right-of-way line now.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing it on the left side, but I don't see it on the right.
As we come in, this would be the north and this is the south, I see the right-of-way line.
Yeah,
On
then
this
I-
side of the road, I don't see
They
it.
don't show it, no.
So, we need a plan that's got the right-of-way.
Did it say in the 12th of June email that this was the most current plan?
I'm only going on that because of the date of the plan. It says 5:30 on it, so
Yeah,
I'm
so then-
assuming, based on that, I'm not saying today, but
No.
based on that, that was probably the most current.
But when you said
I'm
it
just
came
gonna
in
give
on
this to
June
Sylvia for a
12th, where did
second.
it come from?
This email?
Yeah,
Oh, this was, Sylvia sent us,
okay,
because she wasn't able to make it.
okay, I got it.
So this has got the right-of-way on that side, and then
Yeah, it's changed, this is a different plan than
This-
what I saw.
Okay, so you might have an updated plan then.
So, no, mine was older because the right side of the road, the grades were beyond that wall. So she did update that and perhaps recentered it or something.
Okay.
So I think this is the attempt to stay outside of the wall.
Right away? No.
But I think, right, Jane, I
Well, you mean
guess.
inside the wall without damaging the walls?
Yes,
The problem is, in order to regrade, you still have to dig down in front of the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand that because it's been a problem, because I've done work in town. And they're trying to solve a problem.
Right.
The question is how valuable are the walls compared to the problem?
Pete, do you know what the width is of Gulf Road? It's not a quiz, I'm just wondering if you know how many rods.
Well, let's put it this way, I don't know what it is width-wise, but I can tell you two big trucks can't pass each other on that road.
it's very narrow, and
Yeah.
that was another issue. I think she said, well, we're gonna have to go from 22 feet to 20 or something narrow. At least at this section, they may widen it up a little later, but I'm sure you'll hear that from Ann.
Yeah.
I mean, that road it's narrow with no snow.
Oh, yeah.
In the winter, I mean, emergency vehicles, any of that, that's a little on the tough side.
Mhm.
And then especially that curve in there, that's tough.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Do we have any traffic counts for that road?
No.
well, when they built it, I'm sure it was horses.
Well, it'll be improved for sure.
Right.
The road, so. And
There's
it
existing
should be
catch basins
safer
there.
too.
Well, the
Are
only
there?
thing,
Well, I'm looking at this and I'm trying to, are the,
I don't think so.
okay, so all the catch basins are proposed?
Yeah.
They got one like right next to the rock wall. I know they're not driving sheeting.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Mark Young's doing the work.
yeah, I know. Yeah, Mark, I'm not questioning Mark's rocks fall in holes, that's just the way it is. Especially since that's just the top, and the bottom's probably got more.
Well, I believe Mark came in and talked to Rick, right, Jane?
The other day, well, he actually talked to me about it.
And what was his concern?
His concerns were the amount of trees they want to cut, and he said, he was concerned about the whole project, I got the impression. I said, and he mentioned stone walls as well. And I said, I'm sure that will come up, but they did not mention stone walls in their application or their
Right.
letter
Now,
at all. So it's
on
not
this-
mentioned in the notice.
first,
I'll look it up for you.
the pond, the first infiltration pond that they want to build, they've got it outing to the south on this piece of property. So those people must be are okay with that? Or did they
Is it
talk to
up
them?
at the intersection?
Yeah, right up here at the intersection. That infiltration would be on the north and
Yeah.
the outlet is to the south,
Oh, okay,
because that's not there right now.
right. Correct.
And that would, I'm guessing, certainly be on the other side of the right of way.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'll take that back. That could be in the state right away,
Oh, could be, yeah.
okay? Because the rock wall is to the east of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, here's
Yeah.
the,
Yeah, see, there's another rock wall, that, I'm sure, is the state right away. So you got the infiltration pond right there.
oh, right,
You see
yep,
the rock wall?
yep.
So maybe that is gonna go
It'd be in the state right away,
the
yeah.
state right away.
And I know that property was surveyed, Ambrose,
Oh, yeah,
Right.
it was a while ago, yeah.
so we've got to have a plan, or at least there's one at the registry, if we
Well-
can't find one of ours.
Maybe they're gonna bring some more plans tonight.
A reading from the good book of New Hampshire RSA's 2016-17 edition, Chapter 231:158, the effective designation as scenic roads. The language says, shall not involve the cutting, damage, or removal of trees, or the tearing down or destruction of stone walls or any portion thereof, except with the prior written consent of the planning board, after a public hearing duly advertised.
Mhm.
So that's 231:158.
In the plan, Pete.
Yeah.
Station, like 4+50?
Let me get back into there. 4 plus 50.
How much cutting are we doing on the right into the embankment? There's a, looks like a halfway decent size pine here, and it hasn't been identified as having to be cut.
Okay, 4 plus 50.
Yeah.
Oh, that's station 4, station 450. The way
Photo
the
6.
grade looks, I mean, when I'm looking at it here, it looks like they're filling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What tree are you looking at, Fred?
This one here.
You want the sign on it?
The pine with the,
I'm looking at, this is the new grade, that's the existing. It looks like they're filling to me. Because that's an existing grade, and they're probably matching, but this new grade,
is this the 20-inch pine?
yeah, that's what it says. It's got the no parking sign on it.
Yeah.
20-inch oak, 18-inch pine. So they're trying to keep the grades, like, well, this grade line, it looks like a fill. That's existing. If this line was up here, it'd be a cut.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, we've come out of the curve,
yeah.
and we're into the
And they've got-
straightaway going down.
And here's that's a, what's that say? It's cherry tree. But there's also, there's a bound, or there's a property corner there somewhere.
What's this?
That's this cherry. This is drainage,
Yeah,
okay?
is that, drainage?
I just want to see the bottom elevation. Is this all infiltration type drainage?
That's what I'm asking.
Well, I'm guessing it is because they're showing a narrow thing here, and they're probably
Mhm.
putting a lot of stone in there to let the water go in the ground. But what kind of ground is up there?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, it's not sand. I've seen some of the houses that they put in relatively close to that. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
That's my experience generally along the area down to.
And it doesn't mean that it won't go in, it just goes in slow.
Slower, yeah.
That's all. But there's also gravel in the road. So
Mhm.
what happens is the water will build up into the stone before it goes anywhere, and it will
Right.
follow the gravel,
Yeah,
if you had a lot.
right.
So, last night, we got,
No, is there an outlet? I assume there's an outlet for that, right? Or it
For
goes
which
down-
one?
downhill?
Oh, yeah, it follows, let's see, they're going, let's see, they're starting drainage at station 2 plus 50.
Mhm.
And they're going to station, well, they're going past 5. This particular plan stops at 575, something like that. Let me go to the next one, see what, they got a match line, so let me see what we got. Match line. Drainage, 600. Station 6, let's say 625, looks like they get an outlet.
that's the parking lot area, isn't it? You're getting-
Well, they've got like a swale there now.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
wait a minute, there's an existing drainage pipe there. That's 12-inch HDPE that flows out.
Oh, that, under the driveway for DOT? I mean, the
Yeah,
fishing
there's a
game?
driveway there, yeah.
Yeah.
So they got it. emptying out into like a little pond.
Mhm.
There's a little
Yep.
retention area that goes in, and then, I'm gonna go back one here. Okay, so they're putting two 16-inch pipes together. And using like two pipes to help store the water.
Mm-hmm,
That's what they're doing.
okay.
So they're probably, I don't know if it's perforated or not. So that they're getting some water storage in the pipe, so it slows down.
Right,
But you do have 15-inch outletting into a pond with a 12-inch outlet.
so obviously it's gonna be
It's gonna
backing
back
it
up.
up. Right,
Well, yeah, who knows? It depends. You have to have a really super flow to fill 15 to overflow a 12, which can happen, but
mm-hmm,
there's another plan here. So, station 6, 7. Are they planning on paving?
I think that's gonna have to come, yeah. Mark would have to end up doing that under his budget.
Well, looks like the new edge of pavement line stops at 950, station 950. The center line on these particular drawing goes all the way to station 1050.
Mm-hmm,
That's just probably for information purposes. The right-of-way does show up on the last, see, I've got a right-of-way here and a right-of-way there, which looks like a 50-foot right-of-way to me.
So it's 3 rod.
Right here is where this right-of-way changes, because it looks like I got 50 feet here, but right on this corner here, it's not showing that line unless that rock wall from rock wall is 50 feet.
Are you going uphill or downhill
I'm
at this
going
point?
back to 107.
So you're saying it's narrower toward the
Well, see, we got a right-of-way there, and a right-of-way, and it stops here, and then this one goes that way.
107's that way?
North, yeah, well, I should say west. And,
Yeah.
but what we have here is a designated right-of-way right there.
Yes.
On this side, we don't.
Right.
And then up here where this outlet is, I'm assuming that this is the state right-of-way, because that's a state culvert right there, which is a 36. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. What do we got here? We got 624, 622, so drainage already goes that way,
Mm-hmm,
okay?
yep.
So that's what they're doing, Fred. You got a culvert not too far from the intersection. There's a 36 coming across the road, and actually a lot of water does go into that one.
yeah.
And it comes across the road here. This outlet flows towards where this water's already coming down.
Oh,
Okay, so that outlet comes in, that's gotta be in the state
it'll
right away.
discharge into
So it's
that.
gonna go into this, and
Yeah.
then wherever that water goes.
Right,
So,
So they're borrowing.
they're all set with that
DOT
then.
drainage.
That's,
yeah.
is the DOT, you said the DOT guys did it?
Yeah,
Okay, so they obviously knew what they were doing there.
yeah, they're borrowing the drainage.
They're just trying to cut all the water that comes off of 107 from going down the road
Right,
and creating, a better ditch
yeah,
to get that in and follow that water as opposed to going right down the road.
yeah. Pete, you're really handy with that thing.
Yeah, but this is an easy plan.
Doesn't seem like you spend your days playing video games, huh?
No. No patience for
Don't
that.
believe him.
Yeah.
I don't have patience for that. I can sit through a set of plans on the computer, but not video game.
Video games.
No, it's not good for your brain, Pete, you're good.
Okay.
So,
I guess we just need to discuss what the plan is going to be.
So I'm wondering, Mr. Chair, it's 10:00, but we got a rockin' audience. Look at this, we got 5 people that showed up.
And they have something to do with this.
So could we like start, but then not hit the application bell
Yep.
till 8:00?
Take it away.
Do you want to read, you mean you won't
We
read
will,
this?
we'll read that at
Okay.
8 o'clock.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we have an official bell that rings at 8:00 to start the public hearing on the application. But there's nothing to prevent us from having a discussion with our audience before 8:00 so that we can save some time at 8, if that's acceptable to you. So most people are here because they wanna talk about Gulf Road, I betcha. Is that right?
You guys are
So-
really giving me a complex. Why don't you guys come up to the front row?
Yeah, me too. In fact, you could pull the chairs up because, you know, this is
Really
gonna be a
doesn't matter.
collaborative conversation. Seriously, come on up. Because we're gonna be looking at plans, right? Somebody's got plans? Yes? Plans? You have plans, right?
We brought a projector, and I see you scrambling with plans, so I don't know.
If you have a projector,
Let's do
set
it.
it up.
Yeah, because then you can see a better.
Yeah,
That's
That's,
even
definitely.
that's much better.
That's
Right.
even better. Great.
So we'll wait till you get your projector set up.
I heard you.
I don't know how that one works, but
asking questions.
Hey.
So one thing I can clarify.
you don't have to,
is a
that,
two-rod
that's
route.
real new.
Two rod,
And the
okay.
top, and it goes to the rod after the corner.
That's what I thought.
That's why the line's not there.
And Tim Mallett has been, I've been his partner on surveying this
Mhm.
for over the winter and stuff, so he's an LS.
Yeah.
He's been digging up a lot of little property line stuff, and one thing, I don't know if he caught up with you, because there's, on the fishing game, design from, there's a roadway easement that shows up on the drawing, but yet when he pulled up the Quade deed, it didn't show up in the deed.
Interesting.
So
We're
trying to find out
suspected.
If it exists or not.
We're suspecting there may be a wee bit of confusion in that area, given the history of that neighborhood,
Yeah,
so.
because it would be important to know if that is there or not. In reviewing our design with Fish and Game, we're getting a little bit of pushback on grading. So if we already have this plan, the road easement, that's really nice to know.
Oh, yeah, for
So
sure.
that they
Yeah.
can do something that's for the betterment of the project.
Right.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing.
So
If you
maybe
do on
while
that
they're
wall, It works, yeah.
setting that up,
Can everybody see that wall? Yeah, we can see that wall.
Yeah, that would work.
Shut the lights off and we'll.
Is this being streamed?
What's that?
Is it being streamed?
No,
Oh, no,
being-
it's just
being
taped.
recorded.
It's just taped, that's all.
At least I think it's being recorded. Who knows?
You were the only one that knows how to do it, and it's worked in the past.
Well, we have a presentation. How long are you gonna be?
The cleaning person?
Yep.
Okay.
No problem. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, no, I know.
We need popcorn.
Yeah, did you wanna actually see, like, did you get a set of cross sections or anything?
No, I don't have it.
No, I haven't seen any.
Alright, is that something you would like to do?
If you
Or
have
what's the
cross
question
sections,
about
that's good.
If it was cut or fill in areas?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have something like that, that would be good.
Whatever you emailed Ann, that's what they got.
Yeah, I know, I sent a lot of stuff to people, so I'm not sure what package went to.
That's understandable.
It might have went to,
Board of Selectmen.
the conservation.
Oh, yeah.
all right, we got a full house.
Tim?
Thank you.
You all right?
So maybe as we're getting settled, but before we start, this is so exciting to have so many people and so many engineers and so many contractors in them. It might be a first. So why don't we do introductions? And I'll start. I'm Kate Hartnett, I'm on the planning board, and I'm a geographer, so I'm gonna listen.
I'm Pete Chiblehood, I'm in the planning board and I'm a contractor.
Fred McGarry, selectman's rep to the planning board, and also an engineer.
Dave Dorn, I'm a retired engineer.
He never retired.
Sylvia Von Alec, I'm the town planner.
I'm Ann Schultz, I'm a resident of Northwood, but a member of the Lake Association, professional engineer, so I've been working on the project with another member who's here on this project.
John Duffy, I'm president of the Lake Association, and I'm not an engineer.
Ani Irish, Pleasant Lake Association, kind of catch-all for different projects. Terry Bowen Irish, part of Pleasant Lake Association.
Tim Mallett, a professional engineer in Lansader, up on Nottingham Road, Deerfield resident. Tom Brennan, I'm on the BLA, and I'm an engineer with electrical. It's the first time I've said that without.
Preston Thorson, I'm on the Lake Association also. Definitely not an engineer.
Chuck Reese, long-term resident of the lake area.
And just for information, I think it might be appropriate, because it may come up during the discussion, that Ann and Tim also work for the state, and I think that there's some tie-ins, so just for DOT, right?
Yes, we are both DOT employees, but
This is all pro bono.
this is all pro bono work that we do with the association. I don't know if you remember when we came in and kind of talked about the project when it was in preliminary stage.
Almost
And
ready.
is everyone aware of how this was a DES watershed assistant grant that funded this project? It required a 40% match, and we came to the Board of Selectmen, and they agreed that they would provide labor and equipment for the project. We'd use the $90,000 we
Okay.
received to buy materials for the project. Myself and Tim and several other professionals are doing all our design work, survey work, and everything pro bono to get that match taken care of, so that
right.
there's no money needed from the town or the association on this.
30 seconds.
So we start officially?
No, well, we gotta read the.
So we ring the bell?
We gotta ring the bell
I
here.
think you could read.
And while we're waiting, why don't we have Jane introduce herself, because she's here,
Oh.
so.
No, it's all right. I'm not an engineer either.
But Jane Boucher is the secretary, and without her, we'd have a hard time showing up on Wednesday nights and know what we're doing, so she's very helpful.
Until bell rings, or- I don't-
Yeah, it's almost there. Now, what, do you have profiles and stuff tonight as
I
well?
do.
Okay.
This is actually, there's 5 sheets on this, and there's the plan
Okay.
views, the profiles.
I'm gonna ring the
process.
bell. It's 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock, yeah.
We have an
close
application
enough.
for a public hearing for the town of Deerfield Pleasant Lake Preservation Association concerning removal of trees on the Gulf Road, a scenic road. In accordance with RSA 231:158, you are hereby notified that the Deerfield Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, June 28, 2017, at 8 p.m. at the George B. White Building, 8 Raymond Road, Deerfield, New Hampshire, to consider an application from the town of Deerfield and the Pleasant Lake Preservation Association for the removal of trees and brush from Gulf Road designated as a scenic road in Deerfield, New Hampshire. The work is necessary in order to reconstruct the roadway starting at its intersection with New Hampshire Route 107 to just beyond the lake spillway to Pleasant Lake. The reconstruction includes a new vertical profile, roadway cross-section, and a drainage system to provide water quality treatment of stormwater runoff. All trees to be removed are marked at the site with a blue and white checkered ribbon. You are invited to attend this public hearing and offer your comments. If you are unable to be present, the board will accept your comments in writing prior to the meeting and read them aloud at the hearing. Deerfield Planning Board. All set?
Mm-hmm.
I will add one thing. The notice just references trees. The issue of stone walls may come up, which is in the RSA. Is that an issue in terms of the noticing? Does anybody know?
Only if it's, if they're removed, I would think.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so the one thing to be clarified is this project was generated for stormwater management. The current conditions out there are not good. We have rain events, there's no conveyance system other than it
The road.
careening down the sides and eroding out the banks.
Mhm.
And if you haven't been out there, I brought videos of what it looks like when it rains, but it's basically a muddy mess that comes down and goes directly into the lake. So the watershed restoration plan that was completed in 2016 identified Gulf Road and the US Fish and Game Go Launch parking area as our biggest hotspots, biggest areas that put pollutants into the lake. And that's why we applied for the 319 Watershed Assistant Grant and got funded that amount of money to fix this area. So when we looked at this, it was an opportunity to try and put into some type of best management practices that would treat the stormwater in an area before it discharges into the lake. And so what we're proposing is catch basins along the side of the road, the gut of the road, that'll be connected with storm chambers so that we actually have a way of keeping the water quality volume on the site and treating it. And putting enough of those stormwater chambers together so that we capture that first 1 inch, which is always carrying the most pollutant loads for events. So the system, being along the side of the road, is requiring disturbance of the vegetation within the stone walls. We did have a previous alignment that was probably going to fill over the stone walls, but we've reduced the width of the road and dropped it enough, so right now the slope, the toe of the slope is inside the stone walls on that first 2-rod section. And we've decreased the width of the road to 20 feet in that area also, so that we don't disturb the stone walls in those areas. So the trees that are coming down are those that are within the inside of the stone walls right now in that area. And then around the corner and going down, I think 2 of them are dead pines, so we just marked, let's take them down anyway, they're dead. And then some are leaning, and some will be impacted because of the drainage system again. The roots will be disturbed and they're probably gonna, unfortunately, die in the process. So it looks like a lot, and you know, I'm passionate about trees just like everybody else, but I'm also passionate about water quality treatment. And I think the project is gonna be really a benefit, not only for stormwater quality, but a benefit for those of us that drive in and out of there, ride a bike in and out of there, walk in and out of there, and we're trying to increase the width of it and put best management practices in place, so winter ice and the events like that happened yesterday aren't detrimental to the lake anymore. That's what I have to say. So I don't know if you wanted to go through profile cross-sections real quick, I can explain anything for you.
I guess,
I think we're specifically looking at the purpose of the hearing, specifically with regard to the trees, and identification of the trees.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to be cut.
I've seen the
And-
plans already, and I'm
Yeah.
actually gonna see them again on July 10th. So they've been approving that portion of it for us.
Mm-hmm.
now I'm taking it that everybody on the Pleasant Lake Association is all for this.
Yes, we are.
Are there any abutters here tonight that abut Gulf Road that have the trees being removed and have any concerns or have no objections, or there's nobody here?
They're not here, but I would offer that I did reach out to them,
Mm-hmm.
and Wendy McQuaid did sign off that she understands the trees will be coming down. Ambrose.
Is she on the north?
She is this property owner, yeah,
Okay.
on this side.
And how about Ambrose
This is
property?
William Ambrose, he lives in New Jersey. I've written him a letter and sent a self-addressed stamped
Mhm.
envelope. I haven't heard back from him, and I did try and call him. So, you know, I've reached out to everybody.
Yep.
and let
Well, I
them
think,
know. He had a conversation with Gary Anderson, he said, I'm not worried about it, but I still sent him a letter.
Yep.
regarding it.
well, certainly you've done your due diligence with regard to trying to notify these people, and it was notified in the newspaper, and so if they're not here, they're not here, and with their absence I guess will be duly noted, and then it's up to us to just look at the trees and whether what you're proposing is the minimal amount of tree removal, or, and if it is, I guess we would then take a vote on
Well,
authorizing
If
that.
it's the trees, do you have the PDF that shows the trees with the red X's and my notes about
Yeah,
why
that
they
was
need
one I
to
had
come
up
down?
before, it wasn't.
Can people
So
see
if
this?
you're looking at them in black and white, maybe this
Mhm.
will do.
I get your note.
Oh, you have.
It is a PDF.
Can people see well enough, or should I shut out the lights? Are we all right looking this way?
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, as you were talking about before, we're trying to intercept the 107 drainage and get it back into a more natural along the ditch and discharging area. So we're proposing an infiltration area here that will bring the pipe across the road into the ditch. So there's going to be a 5-inch stop sign that will be impacted by that. And then the roadway itself, through here, it takes a good dive.
Right.
Right, so we're trying to pick it up a little bit, and our control in this area was to hold it totally slow, a 20-foot wide pavement, we were at 22, we decided to decrease it to 20. And wherever the 2-to-1 slopes came up, it gave me a 20-foot width of pavement, is kind of what set the elevations for the vertical profile. So, like I said, these trees are all in front of this stone wall, and, our first drainage system actually starts down in this area, but because of the grades in there, we'll be needing to use that for sloping of the side slopes of the roadway itself. So this is the area where there'll be a catch basin started. You know, this is a big tree. It's hanging, it's leaning, it's unfortunate. I know some of these are a little bit smaller, and there is some rot in some of these, but basically, these all need to come down because we have a catch basin here and there's a conveyance pipe system going down to this corner. So all these roots would be disturbed and everything to get that pipe.
What's the fill in that particular area there? Any idea?
So we're,
We're at 4 feet, right, that would be.
4 feet of fill there?
That's
Okay.
about the
that's
height.
about the highest, because we
Yep.
have the, you know, we have driveways down here, so
Yeah.
we have control where we have to get back and.
Into those driveways?
So the basic need in this area is the drainage system.
And that's before the first catch basin? The fill?
The first catch basin is about right here.
Yeah, you got it at like station 250.
And there's no question that in order to flatten that grade out, you're gonna have to pick it up as you're doing, so
Excuse me.
I don't think there's any other,
I'd love to put like a 5% grade
yeah,
landing, but there's just no way.
no. So certainly to me, it doesn't appear that you're taking anything that doesn't have to be taken in order to be able to do this work on the road.
I know, and I did talk to Mark Young, I mean, I was concerned if there was ledge in this area, he doesn't think there is. So that was one of our other things, like, we didn't wanna have to try and excavate in this road,
Mm-hmm.
so by lifting it up,
Right.
we are gonna, remove, he is planning to grind and remove this material.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not gonna be a sandwiched roadway work, it's
Right.
actually gonna be removed. So I think it was just more
Which-
of our advantage to try and.
That has happened in the town in the past.
Okay, next slide. All right, and this is still coming down towards the corner, right-hand side. There'll be a catch basin in this area, and we want to capture the flows, so we're not discharging anything down these driveways, but our control elevation here is also this drive. The road will be super elevated around the corner, so the only thing getting picked up in this is anything that's prior to the super elevation of the roadway section. Not a whole lot, but we still wanted to make sure we managed anything, so we're gonna get any erosion around that corner or standing water. So these are smaller trees, and again, inside the stone wall.
And
Is
is
it
this
worth putting a culvert in that driveway?
No,
No?
there'll be a catch basin that's gonna tie into,
And bring the water across the street?
yeah, it'll
Yeah,
be picked up by the system that's coming down on the other side of the street.
You do-
it is super elevated.
No, I can see that. I was just wondering whether or not they,
So that's, it's not the most desirable situation for runoff on the road, but it hasn't been a problem.
no, I was just wondering, I mean, if it was worth, because you're going to that much work, if, the people would want a culvert in their driveway.
Yeah, no. I mean.
Because that will help you guys with the water.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you could actually intercept the water and put it down into the tributary that also runs into the lake, that would be advantageous, but I think that would involve, extra easements, agreements, and,
Well, that's just about where the road turns, right?
yeah.
This is where it goes from.
And then it
right
goes
through
to a 50-foot right-of-way, yeah. So you,
Well, and plus, the catch basin is gonna be where?
that.
gonna be right in the corner.
Right in this corner.
Right in there? So you're not gonna have much water going past, assuming the catch basin is installed right.
This will all be super elevated, so this
Yeah.
catch
Yeah.
basin is just picking up the last of it.
Yeah, so you're not gonna get that much that's gonna be going
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you
underneath
got a
that
drain manhole
past the
right
driveway,
after
I
that
should
one.
Yeah,
That-
Fred, I mean, this is about, these chambers are about 100 feet apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's all
Yeah.
impervious areas. so
Yeah.
It's pretty, understandable how much water's gonna be there.
Yep.
Okay, this is, I know, kind of maybe not impacted
Past the
by the
driveway.
project, we got a dead pine and a dead pine. Those are the two that are going out, and this one, where it's leaning,
Mm-hmm.
you just thought, let's get it out of there while we're in there, right?
Yep.
Literally, we need to, try and fix up the area so that's not a future problem.
Right.
So now the right of way is 50 feet, but unfortunately it's at the top of this man, is where our 50 feet
Yep.
right of way goes to.
Because it's now the 3-rod.
Yes.
And the road is, the surface of the road is skewed to the left. So the center line of the right-of-way is more to the right side of the road?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the center line and then of the edge of the right of way is up on that.
Yeah.
slope. These these are inside the stone wall. Sinks that we'll be bringing down the stormwater pipe, tying into the next catch basin down here, so it's more on the road is being widened out and lifted maybe, I don't know, maybe a foot higher or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, 2 foot to 2 feet as we come down.
Yeah. So, the impact of trying to widen the road out right now, it's 16 feet wide, some areas
Wow.
maybe 18.
Now, is that tree with a no parking sign on, is that, you gonna be cutting into the embankment there? Is that tree gonna have to go to?
You have-
Right now, we're not planning.
Do you have new grade lines on the slope?
Do we have new grade lines?
Yeah, I'm looking at the plan here,
Well,
and that slope is on the south side of the road, correct?
correct.
Correct,
No,
yeah.
North. Well, north, east.
Okay. Because that's going down,
You're
and
heading-
that's on the right-hand side, right? Or, yeah. Are you looking back? I'm
No,
looking,
I'm looking, this is boat ramp. You're going
Okay.
into the golf course.
yeah. So that would be on the,
There is some grading on that slope.
You could include that tree, assuming you're gonna be doing any cutting into that embankment. You could include that tree in the approval of cutting trees, and if you don't cut it, then there's no problem, you just,
because that's in the right-of-way. I mean, if you need to take it down,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah, so we're getting pretty close to the buffer on the cemetery there, which is,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, what is this?
requires.
So again, getting back to my point, if we gave you approval to cut that one too, and you didn't cut it,
It is,
Then-
it is marked.
there's no problem.
I think
It
that's.
was
the
marked
sign
on the
underneath
previous
it.
slide.
Oh, it was, okay,
Next
that's
to
it there?
No parking sign.
That's it there, okay,
Yeah,
all right,
and I think that one's dead. There's 2 dead signs on it.
okay.
So, yeah. Different seasons of the year.
Yeah, right.
Throwing this out.
But thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, so if you had any other trees that might fall into that category, that we would grant you the approval to cut it if you needed to, and if it didn't become a necessity, then there'd
because if
be
you guys gotta
no
do
harm,
any
no
slope
foul.
work, it's gonna be easier if the trees
Right.
are.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I got one more. Okay, so this is the first driveway to the boat launch parking area, the second driveway, and this is the ramp going into the lake here. These were more, again, for safety reasons. This one, I'm scared when I drive under it every day. I'm just waiting for some storm to take down. And these two of these areas are impacted by grading and, not so much drainage, they're kind of flagged for safety again. We kind of took a holistic look at this and said,
What about the tree to the right, the bigger one, on the right and back?
This?
Yeah, that looks dead in the picture, I don't know if it is.
I don't remember it being dead.
Is that one, that would potentially in your slope work or not?
It could be potentially on the survey, we can go through the cross section.
Because even if you take away at the bottom,
Yeah, it could be the roots.
yeah, the roots could be there, so.
Can we have like a caveat that as we go greater, I don't.
Well, I mean, I think
I
they
mean,
need,
it's-
they're gonna need a little leeway,
Yeah,
because if they're gonna be out there doing the work, and, they're cleaning up the edge of the road, and you're cleaning the edge of the road, you're gonna scrape up roots, that's,
because what you want from us is the maximum amount of trees that might be cut. And if it's not necessary, then you can leave them. Because the problem would come in is if the tree wasn't identified as needing to be cut, and it was decided it necessary to be cut, then we'd have to go back through another hearing, or,
or what's gonna happen is, you won't take it down, the roots are gonna die,
Yeah,
Trees
and then it's gonna have to come down anyway.
the issue.
It might not be this year, it could be 3 years.
What if we ran into the situation where we you do cut down a large tree, the stump is almost flush to the ground, and you leave the stump for stability, would that be an option?
I mean, it's gonna rot eventually anyways, but, yeah, I mean,
That would
that's up
make
to you
sense.
guys.
Yeah.
That would make sense, especially on the steep slope
Right.
side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, if you guys wind up, you get into it and you gotta do something, you guys wanna be able to grade the slope and make it look right,
Right.
as opposed to having it going like this.
What do you think would be, like, 8 feet off the road? How would the approval work?
Well, it has to be in the right of way, first of all,
Right. Right.
because we can't grant anybody permission to cut trees on somebody's
Right,
land,
property,
so.
no.
Can we add that tonight for approval?
Sure.
Specific tree, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then to your
yeah, you should,
comment.
if there's anything that you have in question right now, that you know that you kind of waffled on, bring it up now. Because,
I would say.
because we don't, because otherwise we have to have another public hearing, right?
It doesn't mean you have to cut them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
and this is a lot of trees, so it's gonna be a radical change, so.
But on
we
the other
appreciate
hand,
what you're trying to balance.
you're trying to make it functional, and there's no need to get it to the point where a tree's gonna have to come down in 3 years anyway.
Well, there looks like there's a few that might be additional, like I'm looking at station, like about 50 or so, by the
What
infiltration.
photo number, Sylvia?
It's the first one, photo 1, and it's
Photo number 1?
right by the infiltration there, and it's got the signs on it.
Oh, ones with the
The
signs?
big ash with the
And, I mean,
signs?
it's
Yeah.
not the tree, it's gonna be the roots if you're digging in there, right? But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did look at that tree, and, but with the profile has been adjusted, let's see. Well, actually, it's about where, just about, that's about right where we have to dive down, to intercept, the small amount of flow that comes off 107 there.
But we can always leave it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's probably a good idea to add it.
right.
I think that's the original.
Where is giving the professional engineers permission to cut trees as long as it's inside the stone wall, inside the right of way? This is their discretion.
No, we've got to identify all the trees.
Okay.
So
Th-
that's
this-
that's an example of a tree that's, excuse me, but
No.
if you were to take the stump out, then you're going to disturb the stone wall.
Well, if you're gonna dig down a couple of feet on your infiltration area, you're gonna be into the roots anyway. Because you got a grade change in there,
That's my
a
point.
couple of feet anyways. I'm just asking a question. How come you didn't just go with a culvert across the road?
That's what we do have there.
No, I mean, without the infiltration area, right up at the top. Just open up the ditch line where the no parking sign is and bring it over, because you're bringing it over to the same area anyway.
Well, the idea is that with the infiltration area, we get a stormwater quality treatment
Right,
rather than just letting it go through a pipe.
okay. No, I was just asking.
Yeah, well, now that this is a watershed restoration plan, we have to try to find all those little increments for credit.
Okay, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sylvia, did you have any other, we pointed that one out?
I'm looking at photo, sorry, Ann?
Well, I was just gonna say, so this one is, that one's probably like around station 1 + 25, right? I don't know what kind of tree it is, so I don't know what type.
It's an ash.
It's an ash.
It's identified on the picture, so I think that's good enough for the board, right?
Yeah,
You guys?
Okay.
I think it's the only tree that has lots for sale up at about 20 feet.
And I don't know what the limitation is in the RSA as far as size, but I'm looking at photo 4. And the one next to that first one, yeah, I'm looking at that one and thinking, well, if it could, that could be a 6-inch diameter, I don't know, 8-inch.
It's not, but I did put a little flag on it, and I didn't list it because it wasn't 6-inch.
What do you think, 4?
I think it's a 4-inch.
It's hard to tell.
And, sorry to right in the middle of the meeting, but back on that last photo and what Peter had just said, we did discover that there was more real estate to work with on the discharge side of this.
Yeah.
That little depression,
mhm.
and it's possible, do you think it's possible to get that same credit over there at the discharge?
Because you could do a level spreader or something over there, couldn't you?
The only thing I'm getting to it, because we're taking that pipe all the way out.
You're coming in to the same place where the state 107, 36-inch pipe comes across the road, and you dump it in that same area.
Yes.
Well, you know what, Tim,
there's a
Tim,
different-
remember when we were walking out there and we said it really doesn't, it kind of gets to a depressed area and it looks
Yes.
like a sort of level spreader, like down the hill, it's not even like a,
Yes, which is, so it may not make it all the way to that tributary, because this is such a small amount of flow.
Mm-hmm.
It might just turn into sheet flow. and
Yeah.
there's stone wall there, but this is a very narrow area, so it could be best just to have.
Could you
a
go to
drop there.
drawing 1 of 5?
Drawing?
Yeah, it's the one, it just says layout and grading and drainage. I think it says drawing 1, or sheet 1.
Sorry, what?
And the whole drainage is a closed system aside
Yeah.
from that.
so this.
So that outflow is going right there, and then that flow, the way it looks in the plan, is it's gonna meet up with the stuff that's coming across the road.
Yeah.
Oh, right there, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Out there in the field, it's a area that's sort of flat. in
would,
there, and
would
it
that,
also
if
is
you
like-
guys made that, like, would that give you more credit as opposed to trying to stick it in on the corner if you just ran a small ditch and into the culvert? Or does it have to be on the inlet side?
I don't even know, we could even maybe just pick up grades in there and see what that depression is right now.
There you go.
Yeah, right, I think we just weren't able to quantify it precisely, but I think it's possible to, as long as DOT would approve that with the excavation permit there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, it'd be easier for you guys to work on that side.
Yeah, certainly
As
give you a
far
lot
as
more
space
room.
goes,
Yes.
Yeah.
you'll have more room, because
Right.
you're in the DOT right away.
Right.
The water's gonna go there anyways, the way you got it designed. Would it give you more room? And you wouldn't have to try to sneak that infiltration basin in?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to emphasize that this is a very small amount of water that would be.
I know.
diverted here. And so we're not.
Is the ditch even open? Is the ditch even open where that no parking sign is? Or is it just running down the side of the shoulder?
It generally just runs down the shoulder and then it sheets right across
The
entrance.
road and then down the road and,
Yeah, it comes around the corner.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
so that's why,
This is still somewhat need of construction though, because we gotta get an area depressed enough to get into that invert of that pipe, so.
Yep.
We will be doing something.
yeah, no, you gotta put a culvert in somewhere.
So,
But you may not need as much length. Try to
Well,
keep
no,
that.
the length is gonna be actually longer if you moved it up to the closer to the road, but
we have a ballpark estimate for the size of that tree, so we can just include that in the approval.
it's gotta be a 25-inch tree, right?
This one?
Yeah, the one with the signs? That's
It's a
been
big
there for
ash,
while.
it's an ash tree.
It's about 15-inch diameter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good size.
Sounds about right. And with regard to the wall, I think Sylvia brought up a good point, that if you're tearing down and, what wording is, tearing down or destruction of the stone walls, then you'd need approval on that. But if you're gonna just take and rebuild that wall, if it's disturbed, then there's no issue. Or if the
It'd
town.
be hard to
or if the
work
town is
without
gonna do
moving
it.
rocks.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure some rocks are gonna be picked up.
I think as far as just, really wouldn't need approval from us if the wall is gonna be rebuilt back in place, if it's been disturbed.
And to just go on, we were talking 4.
So
But
you
this
want-
one here,
Like I said, it is, I don't think it's a 6-inch, but I think it's 5.
I think just for safekeeping, we should just add it.
noted. And were there any others?
I think those were the only two.
There was a bigger tree, yeah, that one right there.
Yeah, that one.
How about the little pine tree there on the left side of the road by the opening? A little further towards the lake.
This one,
Yeah, is that one okay?
it should be fine.
Okay.
Well, why don't you mark it anyway?
Well, that's on Fishing Game property, I think.
Well, they're in line with you guys doing this anyways, right?
They've been,
Oh,
they've been partners through the process.
oh, you know what it is? They don't wanna put fish in there anymore, so that's what it is, okay.
We have ongoing discussions with them at the moment.
Okay.
Can you back up one more quick? So we have this one flagged, and then we have nothing flagged until we're getting down to it, so. I mean, I'm amazed how they stay up there right now.
How soon do you guys wanna
There's
get
a
going
small
on
one there as well, behind that
They want to do it
Second.
August.
second X. Yeah,
this? They wanna get going. They're running out of time.
Oh, yeah, right.
pretty
Yeah,
small.
yeah, they was, that's why they were trying to come last month, last meeting.
Let's include that too. That's a third tree we're including on page, on photo number 6.
Photo 6.
Fourth tree we're at.
Oh, no, I know.
Fourth tree.
You got a
Oh,
lot
okay.
to do to try to get that done in 30 days.
Pete, do you go down
So
there?
we'll
Rick?
call that a
Oh, I've been by it
4-inch, I
many
think.
times. I know what it looks like.
Do you have any idea why it's too,
There's one at the top, right by 107.
Well,
Small one.
back when I owned the lake, I didn't want anybody going down there. I have no idea, Kate. Honestly, I think it's just a matter of, you know, they said, let's go here. And then before,
There was a question
before
on,
intelligence came into the thing, it was just a matter of.
Yeah.
yeah,
Is there any other thing? Is there any other trees you think? Because we
We're
want to
up-
get,
We're up
we
to
want to get
30
every.
trees.
How many?
We're up to 30 trees plus a stump at this time.
Okay. We've added how many?
We've added 4 trees.
Okay.
thank you, Sylvia.
And the slope where the no parking sign is, you got all the ones that you think you want to get out of there? What about those little scrubby ones to the left of the no parking sign? Yeah, that. All those little ones going down to where the, what's that, a pedestrian sign? That, what about that pine tree that is, yeah,
I prefer to leave those.
okay, no, I'm just saying, do you want an option on them?
The option is a good idea, but it's not
Well,
likely.
like you said, you don't have to take them down.
Right.
I think you should, just because I do this every day, I would take the option. Because,
No, options are good.
yeah, because the option to take it down is good. The option to have to come back and have us go, yeah, it's okay to take it down next month is no good.
Well, and the option is now we just take it down.
so are you marking the trees?
I'm just looking to see on the RSA
251, yeah,
how small you need to get, because this gets into the minutia,
yeah.
and I'm just wondering if they give a designation.
I think it's 6-inch, Sylvia,
You think it's 6-inch?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm
so-
saying.
Are you,
If,
are you
if
in
you don't even
138,
need
Sylvia?
that, you want to be able to
Yeah.
take them down anyways, because the problem is somebody might say they cut a tree that wasn't marked.
Yeah, it's better not to.
That's
worry
all.
about it.
Because you know what's going to happen when you're going down there.
It just says
We should have took that
trees.
tree
Yeah, it
down.
just says trees, you're right. There's no size.
Because I do that every day.
Does the numbers stand out?
Yeah, numbers would say.
Okay.
It's like,
So
I
there's no,
think we can get away with
what
leaving
what
that
Pete
one.
said is, it just makes sense anyhow.
You guys got a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it, and you really don't have any time to come back and see us.
Right.
And, not that you really want to come back and see us, but I would make sure that you got everything that you guys want to do. Actually, move that telephone pole too. Because that's in the way.
Right, we'll just cut that down with a chainsaw.
Yeah, right, it looks like a tree.
Those trees that you were just citing, those are in the 25-foot offset from the cemetery.
Yeah.
Which also, we can work within that area as long as it's
Okay, well, just so you know, I had to remedy a cemetery
Ah.
issue once.
considered.
We
I
put
got it.
curbing because
I found it.
the person,
Is it
We're way too far in the minutia. As used in this subdivision, tree means any woody plant which has a circumference of 15 inches or more,
Oh my God.
at a point 4 feet from the ground.
So what,
So,
5-inch
Sylvia.
I
diameter?
think we're all set?
Good.
I knew it,
Take some of those off our list.
yeah,
Well, that's,
so we're all, we'll leave it as it is. We'll
well, the
leave it
only
as
one
it
that
is.
you had any
No.
question on was that one big one towards the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that big
That one right
one.
there.
Yeah.
So you wanna add that one for sure.
Right.
So,
And the one at the beginning of the hill,
Right.
so we're good.
But
Thank
it's
you.
always good because this is a very popular road.
Yes, yes.
And
the day you guys start
doesn't
cutting
hurt
trees,
to
the phone's gonna
overnotice
ring.
it. Doesn't hurt to overnotice.
Right? The
What?
day they cut the trees, the phone will ring.
Oh, yeah, right.
Right.
It's bound to happen.
May I ask a question? Early on, you talked about, not only vehicles, but people walking, people bicycling. Is there any accommodation for a bike ped way up and down this narrow
They haven't got
area?
enough space.
No,
I know
they
that,
don't
there-
have it.
I know this, I just wanna ask the question because
Elevated
we have,
skyway?
what?
Elevated skyway.
I was thinking about a tram or something like that too. You guys just pull the bike up, hook you, and away you go.
You know, that you
So
could
nice to have witnesses to how I get treated on the planning board, isn't it? Look
You
at
could
this.
have Sharrows.
Catapult to
That's
get
what I'm
from the
talking
boat
about.
launch
That's
to
exactly what-
107.
Whoa, we happen to have a regional expert on bike ped design in this very table, sitting to my left. So I just want to have a minute to talk about this, because there may be a creative opportunity. I just want to kick it around.
Let's ask the expert then.
Yeah.
Kate, I would say that that's a potential, but it's a different project where you would actually impact the stone walls.
Well, just hold on. Well, I think there's a lot of assumptions here. Sylvia, did you have anything to say?
I just thought a Sharrow would be easy. But, you know.
People may not know what that is.
But if you
Sylvia.
ride a mountain bike, you could ride on the
I
rock
think
wall.
everyone's probably seen it, whether you've understood or not. So a Sharrow is just a double arrow with a bicycle insignia, and it just means, hey, we're sharing the road. And it's always good to have a little sign on the road that also indicates share, you know, and it's usually for the drivers, to educate the drivers, hey, you're gonna share roads with bicyclists.
And
And that's,
pedestrians.
it's really good.
And pedestrians, people may walk.
And pedestrians.
In boats.
Boats, yeah, right.
Yeah, boats,
The other thing,
boats one of,
the other thing that's important about that is because everybody here knows, all the engineers in the room like things wider, but guess what happens when they go wider? Guess, what happens to drivers?
people go.
Mhm.
So we wanna like keep the brake on and not just the accelerator, yes, on this project? Right?
You brought up a good question. Would the town be replacing some signs along the road, or providing signs? Do they do that?
We
Is
haven't-
there
we
any
haven't
money
talked
in the
about it.
fund, in the
Well,
budget for
all of the
signs?
signs that you have there, you're still gonna wanna put back up, because you don't want anybody parking on the road, even
Yeah,
after you
right.
widen it.
Yeah.
All your upgrading
It's true.
still, it's not changing anything. Nobody
No,
can
we
park
still
there.
don't- No parking, but
No
some of
parking.
the signs are kind of rusted out and
Gone.
crippled.
Well, you guys are asking a lot
Are
now.
you gonna be coming before the Board of Selectmen?
On July 10th.
Okay, well,
My tent.
raise that point to the board.
Have you already got all your pricing and everything on this?
We haven't done an estimate since the preliminary.
And you said the town's doing it?
Town is doing the labor and equipment, and it's in the town's budget for paving for this year.
Nice.
And we, you know, we're gonna stretch the 90,000 to buy materials. Including drainage and pavement and.
I've thrown out to the other board members that we may want to approach the Northwood Board of Selectmen to see if they'd be willing to participate in the cost on this. And the rationale being that if you count the number of houses and the amount of traffic from Deerfield residents on this road, it is just a minor number compared to what the Northwood traffic and residents' use of this road is.
Good point.
How far did you get with that, Fred?
Well, no, we're gonna be bringing up, I'm gonna be bringing up on the 10th.
I have brought it up with the Northwood town manager that they're next in line, because there's Northwood projects for this watershed,
Mm-hmm.
so they'll be tapped in just as.
Well, I'm gonna suggest our board try and tap them for this portion of the project, too.
And Ann, what town do you live in?
I live in Northwood,
So, it's good.
and I drive through Deerfield to get home every day.
But considering all the cars and this, well, that was one of the pet peeves that I've had with regard to the Northwood Planning Board is that they've allowed quite a bit of subdivision taking place out back with no consideration whatsoever
For the road.
of the traffic that comes out on this road.
Mm-hmm.
That should be development of regional impact.
Yeah, I know, but they've
It
never done
really
that.
should.
You had said that Mark was gonna grind the road up and remove that. Is it,
Yeah, remove might be wrong, I know he wants to reclaim it.
oh, so he's gonna reclaim it, he's gonna save that, or he's just gonna put the fill on top?
No, he's not gonna just put the fill on top of pavement.
No, no, no.
No.
After it's reclaimed.
After
I mean,
it's reclaimed,
if you
no.
grind it, are you gonna fill on it? Is he gonna rip up all the gravel and then save it and put it back down? Because you guys probably don't have the time
Right,
to take it out. If he reclaims it and you mix it,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's,
because to go strip all that out and redo 700 feet of road in 30 days, I know what the town has for equipment, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, if you're gonna reclaim it, you can mix the new gravel in it, because you don't wanna leave that asphalt layer in there, because you know
No.
it's just gonna turn into, even if it's ripped up, it still can form a layer in there.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, we were.
Because
using the-
based on what you just said for your numbers, that's not a lot of money.
I know.
So, you don't have time to dig it all up.
Wouldn't that possibly create, sinkholes if there's
What, no,
gonna
if it's
be-
reclaimed and it's ground,
Right.
and they mix the new gravel in, they're okay. It's when
Okay.
you just leave that layer of, even though it's ground asphalt,
Yeah,
it
that's what I'm
still
saying.
kind of sticks back together, and then you're gonna have that like
Mm-hmm.
kind of spongy type asphalt right in that layer, which can cause a problem, which will stop your drainage that you guys are trying to get.
It's just a lot of fill.
Yeah.
Well, because like I said, if you take all that gravel out, let's just say there's 16 inches. You gotta buy that, plus what you're filling. That's why I was wondering if you were doing any slope work,
Well,
because you could take that fill to help fill the road.
yeah, I don't think this, that,
You don't have enough fill in the slope anyway.
I don't think it's suitable for that either. And the reason that this is infiltration is largely because of the.
You got no place to put the water.
Yeah, there's no, we can't do this like a normal,
Right, it's not new construction per se. But I'm just saying, if he reclaims that, and you mix it in with your new gravel or whatever you, I mean, you said you got a 4-foot fill there,
not there.
but in a couple of places, you're obviously not, you're not gonna fill it with 4 feet of gravel.
No, it's probably gonna be clean fill.
Yeah,
right. Right.
Yeah, we haven't talked the particulars, but I think Pleasant Drive, was that a
Yeah,
similar
Pleasant-
project
Pleasant,
for him last year?
Pleasant Lakeview.
Pleasant Hill Road?
Pleasant Lake Road, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That- I
that,
think-
that was sort of a baseline when we started this.
Mhm.
and
For numbers?
What Mark was able to do.
Yep.
And certainly the whole crew did a great job there. It probably took them more than 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
But we did work pretty fast. And we are anticipating sitting down with Mark soon, again.
Yeah, I mean, there's concern, because like you said, that's the access for a lot of people.
Right.
And, we'll have a big campaign to let people know that they're gonna have to expect delays.
Because it's just tough to box out a road that's that narrow
Yeah.
with,
Yep, and this is where Fish and Game is
Oh.
stressful there.
because of the boat launch.
Well, because they're extending beyond their jurisdiction and wanting to understand, the minutia of everything.
Tim,
You mean they're waded into uncharted waters?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
it's not working.
Putting us in an interesting,
All right, well, we know they want to cut some trees. You guys don't intend on ripping the wall up. If you repair what you got to do when you're done. Anybody have any concerns about the trees?
No.
That's the purpose here, but I'd like to review what I counted as 5 outcomes from our discussion. Just make sure I heard it right. That be all right? So number 1, what I heard as the first discussion is maybe moving the infiltration to the outlet area up at the head there, early on the early station.
Oh, up at the top.
Yeah.
Right. Number 2 is, I know now we're talking about 15-inch DBH, but at least for the purposes of this hearing, adding those 4 trees, just to be specific, so everybody knows what's, and I think having the visuals with the X's is very helpful for the public, because people like to know ahead of time what's going on, and I feel better about it if they understand the whole project, rather than just freaking out. Because we had a whole room full of people when Eversource was doing their enhanced tree trimming, so it was good to over-notice people. So the second is adding the trees and kind of doing some PR in that. The third is raise the issue of signs with the select board. That was Fred's recommendation when you meet with them. The fourth was including the Sharrow or more to remind people to go slow, that there might be people on feet or bicycles or other things on the road, and we don't want more speed than appropriate in a tough spot.
I'm not 100% clear on that one. Is this a sign, is this signage?
It's actually
Painted on pavement.
markings on the asphalt.
Sylvia can help you with that. She showed us lots of
Oh,
pictures.
God. I don't think I need to help them with that.
But I'm just giving them some visual images
And
of
that
what we
would be
mean.
something if our budget could cover that cost, or something to ask the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, you can ask the Board of Selectmen.
That would be part of the sign thing, it's just a different kind. And Sylvia has been working with the town, and we're trying to do some pilots, but this would be a nice place to include that too. Especially because of that issue of safety around people coming through there, other than in a vehicle, and needing some help not to get run over. So it'd be good to have.
There's a lot of kids down there.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. And I myself try to ride there, and so I'm, yes, exactly. So I think it's important, and the last thing we want is to make a road more inviting for speed and somebody get hurt, and then everybody feels bad. So,
Have you guys talked to somebody about cutting the trees?
Pete, just let me finish my list so I feel happy, okay? So the Sharrows is number 4, and then number 5 is Fred suggested discussing with the Northwood folks.
No, it's not them, that's Board of Selectmen.
Yes, I know, but just outcomes of this meeting
Mhm.
that we talked about
Yeah.
tonight, that's all I'm trying to get.
5 was what? I'm sorry.
This Deerfield Select Board talking to the Northwood
Oh,
Select Board.
okay.
For a couple of reasons, but it also to keep in mind that these folks are going to Northwood as well, so it'd be sort of a collaborative thing to talk.
But not part of this project.
Pardon?
Not part of this project. There's another phase in the future, right?
Like I said, there's phases that are actually in Northwood,
Yeah.
so, like I said, this has been sort of a Deerfield project, and I worry we're coming midway to.
But you're not planning on going to them this year, right?
No, because we don't have a grant
Yeah,
money.
okay.
Yeah, okay, that's good to clarify. That's what I want to do, so, did I miss anything? Is that the things we talked about across the
Sounds good.
spectrum? Pete, sorry, over to you.
I was just wondering what kind of budget you guys had put together for your tree cutting.
We found a contractor to help us out with that.
There you go, that's good. Because I'm sitting there looking at it going, ooh, all those wires.
The contractor will remove the trees if the town provides traffic control and takes them away.
Mhm.
They'll cut them down and chip everything.
Oh, good.
Good,
So it has to
Excellent.
cut the trees away
That's good.
by traffic control.
because that's a lot of money.
Pete, I appreciate your comments about the structural blocks.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just, the thing that rang in my head is what she said you had for budget, and buying gravel and labor and all that. That's why I was sitting there going, ooh. And you gotta get it done quick. So, we need somebody to make a motion to approve cutting all the trees.
I think Ann might have do
Okay.
you have something else to say, Ann?
Well, I just wanted to let everyone know, our grant dollars do go through 2018.
Yeah,
Mark Young did say he could add it to the paving program for 2018, not a problem with him, but we'd really like to get it done this year.
well, to be honest with you, I wouldn't wanna drive down that road in the winter without asphalt on it.
Oh, no, it's not gonna be
No.
like ripped up or nothing. It's either gonna stay the way it is for another
Yeah, okay, so,
winter or get completed.
Okay, we're gonna-
And what,
So we need a
how many
motion?
additional trees do we have? Another 4 or 5?
4.
4.
4.
I'll make a motion to approve the tree cutting on Gulf Road in accordance with the table provided, which identifies 26 trees and plus additional 4 trees as a result of the public hearing tonight.
do we wanna make note of what Sylvia read too, that trees under 15-inch may be cut as well, because they don't fall under the
Your
jurisdiction of?
15-inch circumference.
Right,
Right. Yeah, and, okay, we can,
yeah, so we wanna make so that
Move
somebody
that in.
sees them cutting a tree that doesn't have a flag on
Oh,
it.
that's circumference.
right, it's not
What
diameter.
was EDH?
No.
That's
circumference,
around.
so it's a
No,
5-inch.
no, I know that.
Basically, it's a 5-inch, anything 5 inches under 5 inches.
They
is-
can cut,
They can cut, right.
right, okay. Anything else?
Need a second.
We need a second, yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor of granting the cutting of trees on Gulf Road?
All right,
Aye.
Aye. Go.
I just want to say, you talked about having a contractor and working, I just want the planning board to know that this group has been working as volunteers. When did you start this? How many, John? How many?
Well, this specific project,
No, the whole thing leading, how long is this?
14, just about 3 years ago. In June.
And so what's happening here is that a group of interested citizens are trying to get ahead of problems by getting money in from a variety of sources and using a lot of goodwill and connections to make things happen cost effectively. And from my point of view, as someone who's only lived in town since '87, it is a very impressive effort. And so I just want to highlight my appreciation for what you're doing so things don't turn funny and green in the lake. So thank you very much.
And I want to thank you all, not just for your support here, but the guidance you provide during the process, which helps. And we don't always get, but we've gotten Deerfield, so we appreciate it.
we're good.
Thank you all very much.
See ya. All right,
So does this mean I can call my contractor?
Yeah, you're all
Yeah.
approved.
as far as cutting trees,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't, if you're gonna get going,
You're doing.
get going.
You're meeting with the select board in July, right?
July 10th.
But you've already met with them, right?
Yeah,
I'm meeting with them on the 10th, because the cemetery that's there, there's an RSA about, you have to have municipality approved, and
Oh.
within a 2,500 boundary.
Yeah, okay.
And then there was discussion of a MOA with Fish and Game, but right now I don't, nobody feels comfortable going down that path, so it's on the agenda, but definitely.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but you can raise signs and the issue of the Cheryl issue at that point, yeah.
I will.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ann.
You're welcome.
It's nice to have Deerfield Northwood collaboration going here.
We're trying.
CIP,
John and I went, to our board of selectmen here, and we went to the board of plan, trying to collaborate zone.
Good.
So what were you thinking quickly, Sylvia?
Thanks for your time.
I said, what were you thinking quickly on CIP? We gotta go over it.
Well, the town needs to update it.
Right.
Yeah, it's been brought to my attention that the school board has been requesting a new CIP, so it's something that needs to be done. That's the reason I sent you all copies of what Jeff Munn had sent and
Yeah.
done with Jerry, and that was.
It's, you'll have to know that is beyond the time I have allotted.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
We know this.
But,
Well, are we talking, how much, you got, the commission ended up doing what, Chester's?
yeah, and, I mean, certainly we can do it, we are able to do it.
I'm just thinking about our budget for next year, and to
Yeah.
be able to, whatever the amount of money,
Well, this is kind of old at this point. We'd have to look at it.
Yeah, right.
We'd need a scope of work.
mhm,
I think the board would want to develop a scope of work and probably want to work also with the town administrator and
mhm.
typically also with finance and, see where you want to go. I mean, I looked at your old one really briefly,
Yeah,
and, I mean, I think you can make it a little bit more, like, right to the point on, actually, less on some things and more on other things.
mhm,
It's really about, capital improvement program, for anyone who ever watches this, is all about a guidance document, right, for Board of
Right.
Selectmen, Planning Board, for the departments, so that you have a 6-year plan of what needs to happen. And, I mean, I did it for many, many years over in Exeter, and it was a process that we started probably in May, and it was done in September.
mhm.
And it was a lot of departments working together, and really, let's list the projects and see what's priority, and, let's try to balance out every year, so you don't have a year that's really fat, and then
Right.
4 years of nothing, so let's figure it out. And so it's a really good tool, and it's a great planning tool, I mean, so if we know that the town, for example, wants to, the road system or whatever it is, wants to really work on, towards a goal, then,
Mhm. And
Right.
also, Jack Munn had put together impact fees for fire and police for Deerfield, which we have not included in our impact fees. And in part because Jack had said, well, his thought was that we really should have an updated CIP in place
you
before
need
we did
enough.
it, to be able to justify
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. And that's a whole other ballgame, that level of, work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think, knowing how much work is involved in this, I think we really should end up putting something in our budget, whether it's
To get some help.
to get some help, yeah. And that's why I had suggest what was the bulk, I know it's a few years old, but what was can you remember what the Chester one was?
No, not, for a complete update, I think you're talking like $6,000-7,000.
Oh, I would
If
imagine
not
at least that.
10,
Yeah,
so,
but if you could give, if you could look at what Chester's was and maybe give us give me a ballpark estimate as to what it might be today. And we could look at that and see if we should add the contingencies in there as well and to cover it so that make sure it gets done.
The biggest problem we have to do is determine, like you said, focusing in on what is attainable,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, not all in one year.
Right.
That's been the biggest issue.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it just so happens that next week is the department head meeting, right? I mentioned that earlier. And so I can talk about that this is something that this group's thinking about updating, and it would certainly be asking the different staff members,
Right.
what is needed to, you know, are you looking at a bigger facility here or there, and, you know,
Sylvia, two questions. One is, are you aware of any town that does kind of a rolling update of the CIP so that it
they all do.
stay current?
They should. It should be an annual update.
So to me, that's part of our problem, is that it's just
Right.
not in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And so it never gets used because people aren't thinking that way. So we go through the motions, but it's always wasted motion, ultimately. So it's my view at this point in my life that unless we can move people toward agreement to annual updates, this is just gonna be an exercise. We have a new town administrator, so I just would like to raise that as a possibility.
Yeah, it's so much easier to do it annually
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
and say, okay, have your strategies changed? Do they remain the same? Is something new? Did something come up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know from just the Complete Streets work we did with the group that, you know, there's a situation between the library and the fire department, and parking and facilities and
Right.
coordination there. And are the facilities, are they the right size for the town? Do they need to be updated in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so are there other facilities that would be better, you know? And then you have some beautiful buildings. What's the upkeep on that? Do they
Right.
need something? Is there a new roof? You know, a new boiler? You know, those things are important.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can get maybe you could have a conversation with Mr. Harrington in advance, but unless we're able to get department heads doing this as a rolling update, I'd suggest we don't even do it, because it'll just be stuck on a shelf and no one will use it. But then the other part is, it has to be rolled into the work of the MVC, I think, in some kind of way, to inform them, because right now, they really help shape the budget.
Well, they had talked about, or questioning whether some capital items were actually included in the CIP. There was some discussion of that. And, so, at least some of them are thinking about it.
That's great.
I mean,
That's
basically,
progress.
I'm looking at the items that we have on here, they usually wind up making it as a warrant article.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much the way everything's been
Exactly.
handled.
That's
Right or wrong, that's the way it's been handled.
Right.
Right, but I just, again, the only thing is, every time this comes up, I will just say, we worked really hard on the CIP last time, we had somebody do a lot of very thorough work, and then nothing happened with it, for a variety of infrastructure reasons internally. So why go through that same frustration if we can't really get people into treating it seriously?
Well, then I guess maybe what we need to do is, we need to think about it, and then we should have a vote, and say whether or not we're gonna do it, and then just let every item become a warrant article item.
Yeah, I guess it really depends upon the size of what Sylvia thinks the cost might end up being. And, you know, if we're looking at $10,000 or something, that could be something that could go into our budget, our direct budget itself.
Right.
And
But
rather
I'm
than a
talking
warrant
about, look, I think what Kate's referring to is that even if we did the work and we present a plan, you don't see any follow-through on the plan.
If we don't follow through on the plan, don't waste the money.
Well, the only other issue is that our impact fee could be challenged
Because we're not doing this.
because we don't have one.
Oh, you have to have the CIP
Yeah.
annually to do an impact fee, for sure. And if you looked
She said
at,
annually, and we don't have that, we've never had that since
Well,
1987.
Right.
If we don't do it, it's never gonna get updated.
Right,
If we
exactly.
Right.
do it,
No, I
then it's
understand.
whose obligation is to push it getting updated?
It's the planning board's
Dust,
responsibility.
and then,
So it really falls on our shoulders
Right.
to,
Right.
one, get it done,
right,
get it updated, to current conditions, what we're looking for now.
mm-hmm,
And then every year, ensure that the department heads review it, and
Right.
staff reviews it, and then we get it updated.
I
I
agree.
can provide you an example of what I had worked on in Exeter, the worksheets that would go to the department heads, vehicle replacement worksheets, the project worksheets, and the CIP itself. And it's all about the projects.
mm-hmm.
Well, let's take advantage of this experience and.
So-
What I'm saying is we may not necessarily need to spend a lot of money because we have a good template from before. I don't want to reinvent the wheel and have the wheel then just sit on the side of the road
I don't
yet
either.
again for 6
I
years.
agree with you.
So I know.
But as I said, I think the obligation is ours to push it.
And I'm agreeing with you that we need to cross-fertilize, which is why I'm looking at Sylvia, because she'll be connecting with these folks, and unless we get a kind of a, from the beginning, a little banner that says, hey, you guys, we want to do this, but we don't want to waste any money, so we're going to need you to do this annually and not once every 10 years.
So if you're seeing growth in a certain area of town, let's say the library, it's, because of growth, it's finding its spaces, and it's just too small now. So that's a perfect project
Oh, yeah,
for CIP and for impact fees.
right.
We got it, so we have to put
Mm-hmm,
get the one and then the other. It's just step one, step two.
right.
And so I'll start that conversation next week, and I'll make a note, my fancy note paper here, on, I'll email you all some of the examples of what I
Okay.
used to work on. I think I still have all that stuff.
Great.
Thank you.
So do we want to set a specific meeting to work on this?
We can table this till next meeting, because who knows if Rollins will visit us next time. So we can just have it as an ongoing thing to,
It's been on for a long time, so
Yeah.
it's on the agenda anyway.
But it's
so
moving up the list.
I think the fact that we actually did talk about it this time is good.
Yes.
Progress.
It's progress.
It's already after 9.
Yeah.
It's 5 nach 9.
What?
5 nach 9, which means it's 5 after 9.
In what language, Pete?
German.
Oh.
That was interesting German.
Schibelhut.
Okay.
Not only can you read a little computer screen and translate those scratchy lines into
Do you want a motion, Mr. Chairman?
dimensions, he
Yeah,
can,
yeah. Fred?
he can speak German. Sort of.
Move to adjourn.
Limited.
Second.
Okay,
All those
David.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gute Nacht.
Before you go. I didn't want to bug you, so I thought I'd talk to
We
you in
can
person.
shut that off now.
It turns out that,
Exciting stuff.
Wait a second.
All right, Dave. Exciting stuff.